There's been some really funny stories actually about people within Microsoft basically going to use Claude Code because it was better than the Copilot coding stuff.
Windows users have been complaining about broken update after broken update when Windows push out updates on their users that are actually breaking their system.
You see, by some metrics, Windows market share is at its lowest point in decades.
Bill Gates is reportedly in damage control mode after internal leaks revealed how deeply Windows 11 is breaking down behind the scenes. This is no longer about a few bad updates, but about a system where quality teams are weakened, critical bugs ship unchecked, and forced AI decisions override user needs. The backlash is now explosive, with users furious, enterprises delaying upgrades, engineers losing faith, and investors watching Microsoft's flagship platform come under its heaviest fire in decades.
Microsoft keeps stuffing AI features and bloatware into these updates. Nobody asked for Copilot in their system tray. Nobody wanted their gaming rig to become a chatbot testing ground. Windows 11 launched rough, and it's only getting worse. At this point, they're not fixing bugs. They're adding features nobody wanted. So just beat it, Billy boy.
What started as just another bad update has turned into a public pattern of breakdowns that Microsoft can no longer hide. Microsoft shipped an update so broken that the Windows button, the single most clicked element on your entire operating system, just stopped working. Across millions of devices simultaneously, after a routine update that was supposed to make things better. Windows 11 satisfaction just hit its lowest recorded score since tracking began in 1994. And now, people, on the inside, engineers, QA leads, product staff, are openly saying what Microsoft will never admit publicly. Quality is collapsing, and Microsoft is actively cutting the very teams whose job is to stop that collapse from happening.
The personal computer users, it's an absolute privacy, security, and autonomy disaster.
If you are running Windows 11 right now, this is not a theory. This is not a tech blogger with a grudge. This is a documented, measurable, employee-confirmed crisis unfolding on the machine sitting right in front of you, and by the end of this video, you will understand exactly how deep it goes.
Deeper integrations into Outlook, Teams, and eventually third-party apps. On Copilot devices with powerful NPUs, it gets even more invasive. Agents pulling from recall screenshot history and on-device models to anticipate what you need next.
What makes Windows 11's failure different from any previous Microsoft stumble is that it is not one bad update or one bad decision. It is a pattern, a loop that keeps breaking itself and then breaking the fix. Critical bugs appear, get patched, and then the patch breaks something else, which forces an emergency out-of-band update, which then destabilizes something adjacent. Microsoft has been shipping emergency patches at a frequency that used to be reserved for zero-day security crises, and that frequency is now just normal. That normalization is the real disaster because it means the bar for good enough to ship has collapsed to a level that would have been completely unacceptable just 5 years ago.
That the AI shit that they're doing is ruining Windows, okay? It's ruining their keystone product that people use, okay? Microsoft Windows. A lot of people still use it. I don't understand why. I get it if you have a specific task. But, you know, at this point, Mac is just a far better alternative. Linux is great. I mean, just anything that respects you.
The instability is not hiding in system logs or obscure kernel functions. It is happening in the parts of the OS you touch every single day. The Start menu breaks after updates. The taskbar freezes or disappears entirely. File Explorer, the most basic navigation tool on the entire system, randomly flashes between light and dark mode, glitches mid-operation, and crashes during file transfers. This is not a corner case problem affecting exotic hardware setups. This is the standard Windows 11 experience for ordinary people doing ordinary work, and it is getting measurably worse with every single update cycle.
Some people can't boot up because they get a black screen of death. Some people are having other issues with applications crashing or not opening. There's also remote desktop issues, and there's loads of other issues that people are having with Windows.
Now look at the numbers, because the numbers tell a story Microsoft would desperately prefer you never saw. Windows 11 launched in October 2021. 4 years later, the adoption curve looks nothing like what Microsoft projected. As of November 2025, StatCounter data puts Windows 11 at just 53.7% market share, while Windows 10, a 10-year-old operating system Microsoft has been actively trying to kill, still holds 42.7%. After 4 years of pushing, marketing, and slowly strangling Windows 10 support, nearly half of all Windows users on the planet looked at Windows 11 and said no, not yet, maybe never. For a 4-year-old operating system, that is not a transition. That is a rejection.
Microsoft pushed a January update that's destroying frame rates on NVIDIA cards. We're talking stutters, crashes, unplayable games on hardware people pay $2,000 for. And NVIDIA's response? They're literally telling people to uninstall the Windows update. Think about that. The GPU maker is telling you the operating system is the problem.
And it is not just anonymous users refusing the upgrade. Dell's COO publicly confirmed that the Windows 11 transition is running 10 to 12 percentage points behind the pace of previous OS cycles. That is not a tech blogger's opinion. That is the company shipping more Windows machines than almost anyone else on Earth, telling you that customers are resisting this operating system at a rate with no modern precedent. When the hardware manufacturer breaks from corporate loyalty to admit the transition is failing, something genuinely serious is happening, and everybody in the industry knows it.
And I think this whole thing might even end up being one of the worst ecological disasters of our time, as Microsoft forces tons of computers out of service, generating massive amounts of e-waste. It's also a hugely unnecessary expense for a lot of people. This whole situation just sucks.
But the slow adoption is not purely about bugs or frustration. Microsoft built a physical wall between hundreds of millions of people and Windows 11, and then acted surprised when those people did not climb over it. The TPM 2.0 requirement, secure boot enforcement, and CPU generation cutoffs mean that perfectly functional machines are officially blocked from upgrading. Not because they are slow, not because they are dangerously insecure, because Microsoft drew an arbitrary hardware line and declared everything behind it obsolete overnight. The scale of this is staggering, with hundreds of millions of PCs owned by individuals, small businesses, schools, and hospitals sitting in that blocked zone with no budget and no logical reason to replace hardware that still works perfectly fine.
That Microsoft is actually reacting to all of the bad news. They basically claim that developers are swarming core issues, with engineers being assigned to resolve as many problems as possible. Basically, because Microsoft knows, they know there are problems, and they know the people feeling those problems the most are the power users.
Layered underneath this is an environmental consequence Microsoft has never seriously answered for. E-waste projections tied to this hardware cutoff are enormous, with global recycling infrastructure nowhere near capable of absorbing the volume. Microsoft took what should have been a security feature rollout and quietly turned it into the largest forced hardware disposal event in consumer technology history. And the mainstream press largely let them walk away from that without consequence.
And obviously, it goes beyond bugs. There's also the Copilot thing, because Copilot's in everything you touch, whether you want it there or not. And that's where I go to a report from Zach Bowden of Windows Central. He's got sources suggesting that, quote, the company is now reevaluating its AI strategy on Windows 11 and plans changes to streamline or even remove certain AI features where they don't make sense.
Meanwhile, Microsoft has been engineering a different kind of wall, one designed to lock you inside their account ecosystem whether you want to be there or not. In recent insider preview builds, Microsoft began eliminating the workarounds that allowed users to set up Windows 11 with a local account during installation. The offline setup path, the ability to create a machine that belongs to you rather than Microsoft's servers, is being deliberately closed. This is not a bug. This is a deliberate product decision made by executives who decided that your preference for privacy and account independence is an obstacle to their data collection and subscription conversion goals.
And Windows is barely making more revenue than Xbox, but it's the thing driving every bad headline this year. I mean, every week something else breaks. It's honestly a bit of a comedic spectator sport by this stage.
The real-world consequences hit hard. IT administrators need local accounts for kiosks, shared workstations, and isolated systems. Users in areas with unreliable internet need offline setup as a basic functional requirement. And the millions of people who have experienced Microsoft account lockouts already understand the terrifying reality. When your OS access is tied to a cloud account, someone else controls whether you can log into your own computer. That is not a minor inconvenience. For the people it hits, it is a complete work stoppage, and it is being engineered into the operating system by design. Before we go any further, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe, because the next part exposes what Microsoft isn't saying publicly.
I'm done with you, Microsoft. It's finally time for me to say goodbye to Windows and as many of your other products as I possibly can.
The American Customer Satisfaction Index put a hard number on all of this, and the number is genuinely damning. Windows 11 scored 68 out of 100 in their April 2025 report, the lowest satisfaction score for any Windows operating system since ACSI began tracking in 1994. This is not just consumer frustration anymore. Banks, hospitals, government agencies, and logistics companies are formally escalating concerns with Microsoft account teams. These are the customers Microsoft's entire enterprise licensing model is built around, the long-term contracts that fund the Windows ecosystem. When a hospital's IT department is filing escalations because clinical workstations behave unpredictably after updates, that stops being a PR problem and becomes a direct commercial threat. And Microsoft is living inside that threat right now, with no clean answer in sight.
Microsoft is about to kill Windows 10 support and strand hundreds of millions of devices that otherwise have perfectly functional electronics but are technically incompatible with Windows 11. And for that, for those who aren't bound by application support, there's always Linux.
So what does a company do when its flagship product is publicly on fire? According to people who worked inside that company, Microsoft's answer has been to cut the firefighters. Multiple waves of layoffs have swept through Microsoft, and employee posts across professional networks paint a consistent picture. The Windows organization's quality assurance functions, UX research teams, and frontline support infrastructure took significant hits. QA teams are the last human checkpoint between a broken update and your machine, the people who run test cases, catch regressions, and flag failures before they ship. When those teams shrink, the release pipeline does not slow down. It just loses its filters entirely.
But the reality, everyday Windows users are absolutely furious. Thousands of backlash comments, locked posts, Reddit threads on fire, people screaming, "We never asked for this." And you know what? They're 100% right.
The logic here is brutally straightforward. If emergency patches were already disturbingly frequent before QA was weakened, what happens to update quality when the teams catching failures are smaller, more stretched, and under more pressure? The answer is already visible in the update history of the past 18 months. UX research cuts mean the people who test how real humans interact with interface changes, who catch decisions that look logical on a whiteboard but are maddening in practice, are no longer in the room. What fills that? Vacuum is executive intuition and telemetry data that tells you what people click but never why they are furious. And the results of that vacuum are shipping to your machine every single month.
But this can be disastrous with things like personal relationships, where everything is nuanced. And it performs some automated email response where the AI misses the nuance, thus causing immense problems.
And it is not just the people Microsoft laid off who are gone. Senior engineers with a decade of Windows institutional knowledge are leaving voluntarily, and they are talking about why. Internal discussions describe an environment where performance concerns get raised and dismissed, where engineering judgment is consistently overridden by strategic priorities, and where teams are told to ship AI features that user data shows people do not want, instead of fixing stability problems that user data shows people are suffering from daily. When engineers publicly state they are shipping things they know users hate, that is not a morale problem. That is a quality death spiral with a very predictable endpoint. Senior engineers leave, their institutional knowledge leaves with them. Junior engineers inherit systems they do not fully understand. Bugs take longer to diagnose. Fixes take longer to ship. And the remaining engineers watch the product deteriorate in exactly the ways they predicted and were ignored about. It is a collapse loop, and once it gains momentum, it is extraordinarily difficult to reverse from the inside.
Meanwhile, Microsoft is over here stuffing Copilot into everything, shoving AI features into your taskbar. So here's the real showdown. NVIDIA is building the future of gaming. Microsoft is building the future of bloatware. And your PC is caught right in the middle. The question is, how many more updates before gamers start jumping ship to Linux?
While Microsoft bleeds internal talent, the competitive landscape is shifting in ways that would have seemed impossible 5 years ago. Linux adoption among power users, developers, content creators, and IT professionals who set technology direction for everyone around them has been climbing consistently. Steam OS did something remarkable. It made Linux gaming not just viable, but genuinely excellent, and gaming was the last wall keeping technically sophisticated users locked to Windows. Those users are tastemakers. When they move, they bring others with them, and right now, they are moving in numbers that are impossible to ignore.
I'll begin with a quote. "We need to improve Windows in ways that are meaningful to people. This year, you will see us focus on addressing pain points we hear consistently from customers, improving system performance, reliability, and the overall experience of Windows." Those words came from Microsoft's president of Windows and Devices.
Beyond the desktop, the daily computing reality for hundreds of millions of people is already mostly browser-based. The tools they use most, communication, documents, project management, and media consumption, run identically on any operating system. Enterprise IT teams watching Windows 11's instability and forced account changes are quietly extending. Windows 10 through Microsoft's Extended Security Update program, paying for time while they evaluate whether their next OS refresh cycle needs to include Windows at all. That evaluation is happening in IT departments around the world right now, in conversations Microsoft is not part of and cannot control.
No, apparently Microsoft is still so far in the AI slop game that they're actually cutting ties with their friends at OpenAI. You know, if you're a company called OpenAI, it's a pretty bad time to be you. They're getting sued pretty much everywhere. All the Chinese companies are distilling the shit out of their models and just giving it back to people for free at this point. That yeah, it would just suck to be that company.
Microsoft's response to growing instability wasn't to slow down and fix Windows, but to flood it with AI everywhere at once, forcing Copilot into the Start menu, File Explorer, Office, the taskbar, and even right-click menus whether users wanted it or not. That overreach came to a head with Recall, a feature that continuously screenshots everything on your screen, triggering immediate backlash from security researchers and privacy-focused apps, and forcing Microsoft to delay it, make it opt-in, and quietly retreat.
But I do use Windows 11 too, 1% of the time. 99% of the time I use Linux.
But the real damage wasn't Recall itself. It was what it revealed. A vision of Windows as a system that watches, learns, and monetizes users while treating privacy as an obstacle, all while insiders leak that the very teams meant to restore trust are being dismantled, raising a far more dangerous question about what happens when the remaining guardrails finally disappear.